Now, one of the things that the World Mobile Congress is quite famous for is the keynote speeches, and it's a great place where the CEOs of very large companies have their chance to say to the rest of the industry what they're thinking about how the technology is going to progress. So before we look into 2013, I'd like to look a bit into 2012 and the sort of things we learned from there. So I'm just going to pick out a couple of extracts there of the things I like, and I do strongly suggest that you try and watch these speeches in full or just listen to them. They're very, very interesting. So if we look at Eric Schmidt, for example, who spoke last year, he's the CEO of Google. He was explaining quite a lot of things about Moore's Law and about how things are going to change. And also he explained about how the developing world is also going to, how it's progressing and how that's actually becoming part of the life. This is something that's very close to me. So let's have a look what he had to say.
When are we going to see Android on feature phones?
On feature phones? Why don't you just buy a smartphone? Okay, so the better question is, when will smartphones cost what feature phones cost? And the answer is next year, right? Because of Moore's Law, right? So if you think about last year's $400 Android phone is next year's $100 phone, roughly speaking. So I think it's one of those things where it's hard to take. There are people working on it, but you need a phone with a basic screen and a basic browser that can run the kind of computation to do the things I'm talking about. And it's happening. We have many, many partners, many of whom are here at the show, who are working on phones that will be in the $100 to $150 range. Their eventual goal is to get it to $70 range. If you look at the partitioning in feature phones, when you get to the $70 point, all of a sudden there's a huge new market. And in many cases, especially in poorest areas, the phones are ultimately resold in the $20 and $30 range. So this is achievable within the next couple of years. That's why this message of globalization is so important.
Hi, I'm Peter. I'm a journalist for ZD in Belgium. You talked about connecting the other 5 billion. Isn't it the same story as with a phone line or with basic electricity? By the time that these people will get their 1 megabit connection, that the world has evolved so much, economics have fundamentally changed, that they will still be behind. Won't the gap still exist?
This, of course, is what I said in my talk, so I agree with you. That if you, in fact, to some degree, the gap gets larger, because while everybody else is incredibly excited with an ISDN 64K times 2 or 256K or GPRS connection at a megabit, right? So for them, it's life-changing. The connected, privileged few, sort of all of us, are busy with a fiber gigabit and so forth. So in fact, on a percentage basis, the gap is greater. But it does not negate the importance of getting them connected now. Because if you are in a subsistence village in one of these poorer countries, the arrival of that kind of information is life-changing. The arrival of textbooks, for example, where you can learn to read. There are experiments now that are fantastic where people are putting in tablets and low-cost computers which have learn-to-read software in villages that are full of people. And we believe, all of us believe, that people are so ingenious they'll learn how to read this way. They'll get themselves connected. So if you take my position of the world, which is that the average person is incredibly creative with respect to what they're given, let's give them what we can as fast as we possibly can and get them there. If the gap persists, at least everyone will have the benefit of the kind of global knowledge that we all have today.
So the other video I'm going to take, I want to explain an extract of, is Hans Vestberg, who is the CEO of Ericsson as well, who came to speak here last year, and actually speaking again here in 2013. And he has some quite interesting statistics, so we'll just listen to this now.
If you then think about one of the things that Ericsson has been talking about is that we believe by 2020, it's going to be 50 billion connected devices. 50 billion. Okay, you're all sitting wondering, can that be possible? So let's start working on it. I have one smartphone, I actually have two. So I have two smartphones, I have a pad, I have a laptop that is connected to the network, of course. Then actually, my TV is connected nowadays. I have a power meter in my basement that is sending signals from my power reader to how much I'm consuming power. So that's 6. But I can also continue with, I have a surveillance system that actually is sending information as well, connected. And to be honestly, and to be really personal, I also have a scale that is connected through Wi-Fi, so I can get my weight every day sent up to the internet. Some think it's good to have, some not. That means that I have 8 connected devices, and I'm probably not the most advanced user you can find. There are many others that have much more.
And also the other thing that I really liked what you said was about how our uses of mobile has changed and how it's changing our lives, and for the better, how we're making use of it. And so let's just have a little look at that.
Consumers. We made a research recently in the US on smartphone users, and we found out, not strange, but think about it. 74% of the time spent on a smartphone is not to do a call. And 26% of the time is to make a call, a voice call. It's mind-boggling that 3/4 of the time you spend on the phone is now something different than voice. We built the network for voice from the beginning, one single service. And today, we're using it totally different. Just go back 3-4 years, make the same survey on a feature phone. 90% of the time was a voice call, 10% was SMS, and sometimes trying to go through a WAP gateway to the internet. Fairly unsuccessful. That has happened in a very short time.
Well, thank you. So that's just a couple of extracts of the keynotes from 2012. Obviously, there's a lot of keynote which they do. They last all day, every day, so there's a lot to go through. Hopefully, I can post back some of the information that has caught my eye during the 2013 Mobile Congress.